how do we add value, right? Because how do we differentiate ourselves? And that was what I thought about a lot at the beginning, because I'm a huge differentiation kind of guy. I'm like, what makes you different? What makes you special? What do you have that no one else has?
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Campfire Capitalism. I'm your host, Desmond Dixon, and I'm here with the queen herself, Miss Heather Stafford. What's up, Heather?
Hey.
Boom, boom, boom. Yo, so today we have a very, very interesting and powerful podcast for you. We have an awesome guest. Man, this guy's story is fascinating. He is touching a lot of different industries. He has a very impressive resume, and the way he thinks is, I'm really excited for you guys to kind of get behind the scenes and kind of go through his mental modeling and some of his approaches. His name is Richard Harris. He is the Physician-Preneur. Put two to two together and you'll get something. What's up, Richard?
Hey, Desmond, Heather, thank you so much for having me on the podcast today.
Absolutely.
Boom. Dude, so before we get into any nitty-gritty details, just kind of give us a quick, fresh take of like who Richard is. Tell us a little about your journey and, like, how do you become a physician-preneur, man?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I say there's no human that could craft my journey. This is a complete God thing because it just happened to be right place, right time, right opportunity for these things. I started off in undergrad wanting to do biomedical physics. I wanted to make prosthetics and make devices and medical devices, things like that. And in school, I loved physics. I hated math. I took differential equations, was like, I'm out. I'm out. Can't do this. I'm done. So I said, what's my second love? And it was biology and chemistry. And so I thought I wanted to do bench research. Did bench research for 2 years on fetal alcohol syndrome. Hated it. It was tedious. It was just repetitive. And I can't do this the rest of my life. And I had no idea what I wanted to do at that time because I thought you could only be a teacher or a researcher with a basic biology or chemistry degree. I worked in the dean of the pharmacy school's lab. He said, come to pharmacy school. I think you'd be a great pharmacist. I was like, cool. I have no idea what a pharmacist is, what they do, what the job entails, what kind of job I can get. I just applied and got in because I worked in the dean's lab. Figured out my first year in pharmacy school, I wanted to go to medical school, but I never quit anything in my life. And so I knew I was in medical school by the time I finished pharmacy school. I worked for a year because I wanted to know what it felt like to actually make money and not be a broke college student. So I did that. Plus, I saved up some money while I was in medical school. I actually worked as a pharmacist 20 hours a week. Funny story. I almost got kicked out of medical school for doing that because it was against the bylaws, but I had good grades. So I said, what's the problem? And I had to negotiate my way out of getting kicked out of medical school for working in medical school. But it was in my first or second year of residency, our training, and I'm an internal medicine doctor, I'm a primary care specialist. And I've always been an operations guy. If something's broken in a system, I want to fix it. And the problem with medicine is it's a very dinosaur mentality. And it's the mentality of let's do it the way we've always done it. And so I started to see all these systems and all these things that were broken and could be improved. And I said, well, I know medicine's a business. I don't know much about business. Let me go get an MBA and I can learn more about business and try to figure out how we make medicine suck less for all parties involved, doctors, physicians, pharmacists, everybody. And so in the MBA program is actually when I got the entrepreneurial bug. And that's when I got the bug to kind of build something on my own outside of what the system was doing, because I realized that the system wasn't going to change. But I could work with other companies and innovators and thought leaders to begin to change the system from the outside, leveraging technology and human capital to make the entire system better. And that's pretty much like my 30,000 foot view of what I do now, even though it may seem like what I do is all over the place. It all stays in that same lane is how can I improve people's lives and how can I make the world a better place?
Okay. So you were a pharmacist. You became a doctor. You got your MBA. How much school is that, man? How much school is that? How many years?
That was 15 years.
15 years. And so talk to me like
you got me beat.
Yeah, like 15 years. And so now that you had this like entrepreneurial mindset, man, so like what, like talk to us about that shift out, like talk to us about like you leaving, like what was going through your head, and then what did you do after that?
Yeah, this was my first job out of residency was working for a large practice in Houston called Kelsey-Seybold. And I hated it. I had no control over the types of patients I saw. I had no control over the type of medicine I wanted to practice. The group didn't really care about what I wanted to do, which was lifestyle medicine, supplements, and use medication third. And I would get pissed off because they would tell me how I could prescribe. And I said, listen, I'm a pharmacist. I know more about these medications than y'all. Like, I've forgotten more about medications than you have ever learned. Why are you trying to tell me what to do when it comes to medications and how I prescribe? And I'm a data head. I read a clinical study every single day. I've done that for years. And so I would do things that would be based upon data and not some outdated clinical guideline, because we know it takes 15 years from research to come to clinical practice on average. So if your doctor's not reading studies, they're 15 years behind. And we've made a lot of discoveries in the last 15 years. And so I said, you know what? Screw this, I'm out. And I started my own practice. I have my own, what we call functional medicine practice. It's root cause medicine and addressing the root cause instead of just treating symptoms and using Band-Aids and using medication as the last result. You know, I care about how you sleeping. What are you eating? What's your stress levels? Are you meditating? Are you getting sunlight? I mean, the basics. How much water are you drinking a day? Now, these are really simple things that matter tremendously for our health. Yeah, I'm like you, man. I'm never far from a water bottle. I have it with me at all times. But these are simple things that you can do to improve someone's health, and you don't always necessarily need to go to a medication first. And so I left, started my own practice. This was 2017. And then I realized, hey, everything I'm doing here, I could do online. And I moved my practice online before COVID hit. And so again, everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. You did this before everybody went digital. And then I started to fine tune my practice and niche it down to what areas do I really want to play in. And over the last couple of years, I've been really niching it down. And that led to starting Nimbus Healthcare, our telemedicine startup. But that was really the first entrepreneurial journey, was starting my own clinic to take back my time and practice medicine the way I wanted to practice. And then doing that, I just had other opportunities pop up, and it led me into doing all the different things that I'm doing now.
Nice. So are you fixing the system yet? Are you changing it?
I hope so. You know, I feel like I've made an impact in a couple different ways. Number one, when I started my podcast, I really believe that health information should be free. So I don't directly monetize my podcast. Never have, never will. I feel like we need to create informed health consumers, because people know more about their cars or their cell phones than they do their own body. And how can you make a decision about your body if you have no idea how the system works? Right? It would be like not knowing how to drive and then signing up for a Formula One race. Probably not going to go well for you. That's probably going to be a huge disaster, right? And that's what we do about our bodies every single day, is we make decisions regarding our health that most of us don't even realize they're a decision that involves our health. When you're stressed out and you don't have a stress mitigation plan, that's a decision that involves your health. That's a behavior set that involves your health. And so that's why I started the podcast. And, you know, years later, thousands of downloads later, multiple countries later, it's made a huge difference in a lot of people's lives. I've had people reach out to me from all over the world saying how I've helped their health or a family member's health. I've had medical students, I've had pharmacy students, I've had other practitioners reach out to me and say how that's changed the way they practice, which is, you know, that ripple effect. I have no idea how many lives this has touched, but that's been amazing. And then working on some of the other systems I've been working on, doing the consulting, I've helped build a lot of systems that integrate holistic care into the system. So one of the things I realized when I had my practice is that one-to-one approach was never going to get me to where I wanted to go. I wanted to go one to many. I wanted to scale. It was two things that happened. I realized I can't duplicate myself. If I could clone myself and send myself out there, I would. but I can't. So I said, how can I scale what's in my head to help people? And the second thing I said was, being a physician, I only make money if I'm present. I don't want to do this in 30 years. I've seen 70-year-old doctors still working because they have to work because they have no other sources of income. And I said, nope. I told myself at that moment, if I'm not making money on my deathbed, I've done it wrong. Like literally, I better be making money from the grave for my ancestors. That's the way I wanted to set up my life. But I also wanted to make sure I created a legacy and systems that will impact lives even when I'm in the ground.
Man, that's some hot, okay, man, there's so much to unpack there. Make money while you're dead in the ground and leave a legacy, right? With systems. That's a big world thinking. So talk to me a little bit about like this, crazy to genius in 4 years, man. Like, talk to me about like, what's behind all this, man?
Yeah, it's interesting. So people look at me and say, why weren't you just happy being a pharmacist? Pharmacists make good money. Why weren't you just happy being a physician? Physicians make good money. Why would you go get your MBA? You don't need that. And these are the things I heard. And I always told myself, why not? Right? I never wanted to get in a situation where what I could do is limited by what I didn't do in the past. Because that's the kind of regret that eats people alive. I've seen that. I said, I never want to be in that situation. And I told myself 2 years are going to pass anyway. They could pass with me getting the MBA or pass without me getting the MBA. I'm going to go get that MBA. The time's going to pass anyway. Might as well get it and then be able to do what I'm envisioning in the future. And I always know what I might want to do will change. So if it changes, I want to have the skills at that time period to be able to pivot into that arena. And so once COVID hit, it's even changed my mentality a little bit because I never thought that healthcare would be impacted by anything. Nobody did. Healthcare was viewed as the safest, most secure source of income on the planet. And then we're in the middle of a pandemic and my shifts are getting cut. And I said, whoa, nothing is safe. I have to change the way I think and change my approach. And I have to get in and diversify my talents. So that way I can have a diversified revenue stream, even if it's a W-2, if I need it, right? If something happens, I need to get a W-2 job to maintain for a little bit. I want to be able to have that in multiple different areas, not just being a primary care physician. If I want to go be a consultant or do MSL work or work at a drug company or something, right? There's multiple different areas that I can play. If I want to go into coaching or personal development or something like that, right? And so the same people who told me I was crazy, why are you doing that? Why did you do this? Are now saying, oh my gosh, you're so smart. Like, I wish I had done what you did. All right. So it just shows you if you're crazy, just wait enough time because crazy can become genius. I mean, look at like Copernicus and all these other people who were told that they were wrong. And years later, everybody's like, oh, they're right. And now it's just like complete dogma, what they found that they were vilified for, but now we know is truth. So that's the whole crazy to genius thing. And that's my mentality and how I've structured myself going forward is to be as diverse as possible, to help as many people as possible, and also to mitigate my own downside risk.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. So given the aha moment of going, okay, well, I can't just do this and I don't want to just do this and I want to just do this. What are you up to now? Like, what do you got your fingers in at this moment?
Yeah, so there's really 4 arenas that I play in. And the first is media, podcasting. I'm a professional speaker. And it's kind of funny because my mom made me do speaking competitions as a kid and I hated them. And it was the best thing that she ever did because number one, now I'm afraid of nothing. If you're 13 and you give a speech in front of 1,000 people, you can do anything. Like that was the most fearful moment I've ever had. Like, not outside of health stuff and things like that, but that was the most fearful moment I've ever had was doing that. And so my bar was set so high now that I'm not afraid to do anything and I'm not afraid to fail. The other thing are consulting. So I work with supplement companies and I work with health tech startups. And I do content creation. I do some MSL, some medical science liaison work. So if they want to talk to investors, I'll break down the science for them, but I can also talk the business talk. So, that's a huge value add for a lot of my clients. I will do clinical advising, and then I will also do business development and clinical strategy for them. I'll do investing. So I started investing because of the consulting I did. It was mainly with startups. So I'd hear about, seed and pre-seed type deals. And so if something was interesting to me and I saw a problem in an industry I understood, I would invest. And I started doing that. And remember that downside risk I talked about? I had a buddy who is a consultant. He's a supply chain logistics expert, and he was doing the same thing. So I said, why don't we just combine our portfolios? So we did, and started a company, 40 Acres Fund. And we combined our portfolios to hedge our risk, but also to share in our expertise. And one of the things that came out of that is I myself own 20% of a paper factory in Africa. Never thought I'd own a paper factory. Don't know anything about the paper business. He does. He's a supply chain logistics expert. But, the fund, the companies we've invested in employ 40 people. That's awesome. Like, I go to bed every night knowing that my hard work has helped employ 40 people. Now, some people may not say that seems like a lot, but that's still 40 lives that I've helped put food on the table. And that's a really cool feeling. That's the best part of being an entrepreneur in my mind. People say the freedom. Yeah, that's great. People say the income. Yeah, that's great. It's the fact that your vision is providing for somebody else and you're directly helping someone else put food on the table. That's a really cool feeling. And then the last thing that I do is telehealth. So I have my own telehealth practice. I still have a small boutique practice. Most of it is through online courses now. But a year and a half ago, one of my friends said, hey, I'm interested in doing this genetic stuff and personalized medicine. Are you interested? I'm like, dude, I've been doing that for the last 2 years. Of course I'm interested. Let's bring this to the masses. Let's make it affordable, because personalized medicine is here. You can get genetic testing, you can get extensive biomarker blood testing, and you can get customized regimens. The problem is it's very expensive. So we worked out a way to bring the costs down to make it affordable for everyday people to start doing this. And we're in hair loss and hormones right now with plans to expand to inflammation and other services, because there's a lot of really cool information in this area to where I can run a test on you and see, okay, you respond to this medications, you wouldn't respond to this medication. You need more vitamin D than someone else. You might need less. We are at that age of personalized medicine. And as time goes on, it's going to get more and more affordable and more accessible. And we at Nimbus want to be the leader that marries getting that information and then making it actionable, because you can get that information through like 23andMe and Everlywell and stuff like that, but it's not actionable. You have to go to a physician with it. Well, we have physicians, we have pharmacists, we have a compounding pharmacy, so we can customize dosing to make that information actionable.
Okay, see that, Desmond, this is what I'm talking about. When we're talking about like diversifying the revenue streams, it's things like this. Like most people, or how do I say this? Most ingenious human beings that know how to inherently solve problems do not also choose to acquire the skill set in which to run an effective business. Most of them, like you, are brilliant at something, are really get an industry, and they don't take the time to learn the business side of a business. And some of the most beautiful ideas in the world have gone up in flames because of it. It's amazing. You're very inspiring.
No, thank you.
Man,
Desmond, you look like you're ready to
this is
talk.
so sick. So I'm super interested. I was like, man, because I just relate on a deep level. I know you do too as well, Heather, on the journey of like not being afraid of going against the grain of what society would say. Like, why would you do that? Like, you're a pharmacist. Why would you not be a pharmacist? Aren't you considered now in the top 2% of society? Oh, you're a doctor. Now you could become the one. Why is not the 1% good enough? Right. And like to do something and bet on yourself over and over again. Right. Like you mentioned, like when you're 13 years old and your mom you speak in front of 1,000 people because she taught you, to push you to become a good speaker. Like, that's fearless, man. And I relate with that because, when I didn't become a chemical engineer after spending 5 years doing it, they're like, why would you not do that? Especially coming from where I came from. Like, why would you not be an engineer, man? Like, you are making 3 times the amount of money than everyone else in your neighborhood. Why would you not go do that? Right? You're crazy. You're crazy not to do that. And so, I think it's beautiful. And I think it's very, like, Heather said, it's very inspirational. And I think it's important for the audience to know and hear this, that, like, build the skills and bet on yourself. Right. So if you want to see something different in life, if something's not in alignment, then just like bet on yourself, put yourself in the position to succeed, look out for your future self. That's kind of what I got out of that. And I want to unpack something a little bit more because right now you're doing something pretty innovative, man. Like, you're talking about personalized medicine on a very scalable, in a very scalable way. So, like, I know you just went public with, your startup pretty recently at South by Southwest. So just kind of give us like a quick crash course on this business. Go a little bit deeper, man, because I think this is super valuable, and I think it'd be awesome for the audience to kind of hear like your thinking from a business perspective of like the unit economics of this, or the cost benefit of this to the marketplace. I think that's super important to unpack.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that we thought of from an economic perspective was, how do we make this easy for the consumer? Because we thought that we'd lose a lot of people if we had to send them to lab testing. So, okay, I order it. You have to go to LabCorp or Quest or whatever. We thought we'd lose a lot of people at scale because we don't have personalized relationships with people. In my business, I do that, but I have a personal relationship with that person, and they see what I'm about. They know me. I've had zero issues with that. But I thought, if we are getting lab testing first, which we do before you meet with a physician, we have to make it easy. And so we started evaluating the direct to consumer space in that regard. Our stuff, you get a kit, we send it to you in the mail. It comes to you, it's a finger stick, drop of blood. You drop it on a card, you mail it back. Once your results are ready, you get an email saying, hey, your results are ready. If you'd like, you can schedule a telemedicine visit with one of our docs. They have a visit with me. Then what we do is we have our compounding pharmacy. I make the recommendations. It goes back to the patient for them to approve. And once they approve it, then the stuff ships out. So it took a long time for us to develop that workflow and that order flow. But that was our first thought, was being customer centric and how we can make this experience a good healthcare experience for the customer. But then we also thought about, how do we add value, right? Because how do we differentiate ourselves? And that was what I thought about a lot at the beginning, because I'm a huge differentiation kind of guy. I'm like, what makes you different? What makes you special? What do you have that no one else has? And we could say it's our experience. We could say it's all this. We could say it's all that. But what, at the end of the day, what makes us different is we combine not only prescription customized medication with supplements, with lifestyle medicine. So my own lifestyle medicine course, all that information that I put together, every subscriber to our platform gets access to it. So we're not saying we're only going to treat you one way. We're going to treat you in every single way, because different ways are going to resonate with different people. But we want you to have information and access to all those different methodologies. And so that is really what our value prop is to the consumer. And then you can throw in, the genetics and explaining it to people and making it actionable. We thought that was very important. The biomarkers. So a lot of people, when you get lab work, unfortunately, a lot of physicians don't actually know how to interpret lab work. They just look at the reference range and say it's in the normal range, you're good. Normal range is not optimal range. And somebody can be in the normal range and still have symptoms related to it that you have to treat. So we look at things in that regard with that lens, because my business partner is a data head too. So we've looked extensively at these types of things. We've treated people for years on these types of things. We don't just treat lab work. We don't just treat symptoms. You have to aggregate that together. Now, that's the only part of the business model that concerns me, is that, again, you can't replicate myself or my partner. So at scale, once this gets to scale, my main job is going to be on the education front, teaching the docs and the clinicians and everybody the Nimbus way, because that's going to be very, very important to our model, is that our physicians, our pharmacists, our providers think differently and act differently than what you've experienced in the healthcare space. So again, back to that differentiation. And that's really what my role is going to be. I'll still see people, just to make sure I have boots on the ground. I've always been a big believer. I don't care what level you are in the company. You need boots on the ground occasionally. You need to see what's going on the front lines. Otherwise, you have no idea what's going on. Right. So I will still see people. I will still do that to understand the pain points from the physicians and the consumers. But most of my day to day in a year is going to be education and make sure that we're doing things, mostly QA type stuff, doing things to a certain standard, that we're adhering to certain protocols, best practices, all of that stuff.
Nice.
I got like 2 questions, Heather, if you don't
go. It's all you.
The first one is, who pays you? Is it the customer or the physician or the insurance? I'm a sales guy, so I'm just doing the numbers right now. Yeah. The customers. Yeah. Okay, the customer.
Customer. So we're a subscription model.
Subscription. All right, that's sicker. And so next question, man. I'm going because it's important to kind of understand like how you think, man. The distribution model, right? So this can go probably four different ways this can go. Obviously, you go through probably TPA brokers, third-party administrators. You could probably go through network providers, right? You can also probably bootstrap in some type of referral or growth hack that way. So I'm pretty interested to kind of hear, like, obviously the early days are going to be totally different than what you're going to do at scale, but you also need to see evidence of what you can do later in the early days as well, if that makes any kind of sense. So like, what are you doing now in terms of like, what's your go-to-market strategy, I guess, to get your first, 1,000 patients on this?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So we've got 105, 110, somewhere around there, off just word of mouth alone, just handing kits out to people, them referring friends, that type of stuff. Our go-to-market strategy is partnerships. And so we have a partnership with a high performance gym in Austin called The Collective. This is where NFL players train, all kinds of high-end athletes train. And so they'll sell our kit. They can make some money off selling the kit. And then the visits, everything goes to us. We're also looking at barbershops. So because we're in the hair loss space, our genetic product is for hair loss. We look at multiple different genes and custom compound a topical formulation for hair loss. That avoids some of the side effects of taking oral medication, right? You want the stuff to work at the hair follicle. That's precision medicine. Get the medicine where it needs to work. I don't want something that needs to go to my head to be working on my toes and my liver, right? That's not ideal. Precision medicine gets the right thing to the right place. So that is ideal as barbershops. In our market research, we found that barbers get asked all the time what people can do for hair loss. And so every single barber we talk to is like, dude, this is awesome. I get asked that question all the time. And so the barbershops will also be able to sell kits. They can make some money off of that. And then it comes to us. And the DNA kits are easy. It's self-collection. You just swab. It's not a spit. It's a cheek swab. You mail it back in. 7 to 10 days later, you have your results and you have a visit with us. So we really think, because of what we do, our best initial way to get to that 1,000 people is through these partnerships, where people that have a trusted position in someone's life can tell them about our product, because it is new. Most people are like, personalized medicine, what's that? We have a huge awareness problem. And so how do you solve that awareness problem? How do you solve that cold start problem? You find someone who's using your product who you can get referred trust through. And that's how we thought that we could get to that 1,000 the easiest. And then once we get there, then we have a whole bunch of testimonials. We have a whole bunch of data. Then we can really start to hammer the traditional marketing fronts to 10,000 people.
Oh my God, I love that. So you brought up a couple of things that I love. I've been to that gym, by the way. Just as a fun side note, I've actually been there, which is super rad. One of my clients is a current linebacker.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
He spends about half his time in Austin and the other half of his time in San Francisco. Yeah. So, but a lot like the referral trust. Most people, it's super funny when people start to build up a business, they go, okay, we're going to do this. And either they've seen it done and they don't actually know how to execute it, or they go, I'm going to do this. And then someone else goes, well, what about these? And they don't slot things in the order in which they need to appear. They go, I'm going to do all the things. And they give something like 20% of their attention. And on the flip side of it, 95% of businesses don't stop to look at back-end delivery before they launch. Because the experience is everything. It sounds like you guys have got a really epic launch coming out.
Thank you. Yeah, we spent most of the initial front on the workflow and the back end, making sure that that was correct, because we knew that the seamless experience was very important from the customer perspective. They want it all to be seamless. They want it all to be integrated. They just want everything to work. They get the box and everything just works from there on. So we spent a lot of time getting that right. And then after we did that, then we focused on, okay, now how do we start growing slowly? Because we don't want to overload the systems, because there's a lot of integration that we've had to build out. We've gotten to the point where now we think, okay, everything seems to be working correctly on the back end. The customer experience is going great. We're getting good feedback. Now let's work on getting stuff on the front end ready for when we turn on a lot of that marketing that's not from one of our trusted referral sources. So we are right now developing all the content, all the FAQs, all that stuff for the front end pages. So when someone who has never heard about Nimbus comes to us from, whatever source that they hear about us from, there's enough there that it can catch and engage them. But again, that's 6 months from now, that's probably where we think we're going to be. Right now, we're still working on developing out those partnerships. That's actually my preferred route of growth is partnerships and building out referral trust. Once you get to a certain point, then you have enough people in your network, then you can turn on the marketing. Once you start to have a little bit of brand recognition, because we're starting to get there. And it does help that, I've got a nationally known podcast and I've got a platform and, I'm a speaker. So it brings along some of my personal brand recognition into Nimbus. And so that's helped us get over some of those cold start issues. But yeah, these are things that we thought about a lot. And we really wanted to make sure that we were intentional about how we do things. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people just think, oh yeah, I need to start, marketing every which way possible to bring in people. And that's a huge, huge mistake. And it's going to be extremely costly for you if you don't know what you're doing.
They streamlined to paid ads. I'm like, says who? Do you even know? Do you have any idea how to even do do well in like 20% of like targeting? Do you know who you're actually looking for? Do you know what they actually want? And are you really solving a problem for somebody who actually sees that they have a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Shocker.
Mm-hmm. And the only way you're going to know that is by getting enough people initially to really figure out and ask those people who came to you the right questions. Because that's what we're doing. We're asking them, well, what was it about Nimbus? What did you like about what you saw with us? What did you think about our branding? What endeared you to us? Why would you put your trust in us? Right? These are all things very important, because now if we answer those questions, then we can go after, these are our avatars. This is what we're solving. This is the language that they want to hear. And now your paid ads are a lot more effective.
Exactly. Not to mention, if you're doing, like, for those of you out here listening to this, like, I know that Desmond and I consistently, like, we've got big friends. It's just is what it is. If you've been in the game for a little bit, you have big friends. So you're hearing us talk about some relatively big business ideas. And when you're coming out the gate, I mean, there's like I don't doubt, Richard, that you could just choose to be like, yeah, let's go paid route right now. But again, we keep bringing you entrepreneurs that are super successful, and over, they keep telling you, start by hand, figure it out, and then pay to play. It's not rocket science. This is not a corner that you want to cut. You have to figure out what really truly works and what doesn't. There, and my rant soapbox.
Oh, boom. Box it up, put a bow on it, send it on December 25th. Every day is December 25th. Man, I think also super important. I love pointing out patterns. And, you talk to a lot of like successful people, and you get behind the curtain and hear how they think and go through their process. You start to notice like these little things, like Heather said, of going things by hand. I think something else that we should point out is meeting other people and connections and strategic partnerships, like getting out of your dark room and going out there and talking to people on the ground floor. I think that's huge. Like I had two people today. I had two conversations. One with a family member who was like, hey, how can I create a side hustle? And I was like, look, okay, I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be real. Two things: get more skills and go meet more people. Like, that's it. Like, go like be better, be more valued of other people, and then just meet people. Like, that's it. Like, and then something will come up in the market that you can solve. And then boom, now you're getting paid to provide value to people in some way or some form. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing is I think for business in the early days, I think that's super important. Like, do you have the skills to deliver on something? And then are you meeting people who have, aligned interests or same belief systems, same desired outcomes? Right. I think that's super important. What's your take on that, man? Because I know you're big on the skills, but like, how big is these strategic partnerships and these connections with other people?
Huge. I'll give you an example. This literally just happened today. So I joined the advisory board of a private equity firm that buys physician practices and chiropractic, dental practices, all of that type of thing. And one of their areas is pain medicine. Well, about a year ago, I invested in a company that had an innovative medication adherence device. Really cool tech. Love the founders. Made an investment. Still advised for them a little bit. But there was a law change that allowed their device to be reimbursed for pain medicine clinics. Right? So the networking that I did a year and a half ago came to fruition today. As I signed that advisor agreement, first thing I did, of course, was link them together, because I said, hey, I know someone who can help you get more revenue inside your practice through insurance, through an easy system that you can have, your lower level staff monitor, and your practice gets paid more. That sounds great. Who doesn't want that? More money, very little intervention. And so that all happened because of relationships. And that's just one example. I've done that so many times over the past couple of years. Let's go back to when I had that aha moment during the pandemic. One of my businesses, the business that was doing the best at that time period, in January, February 2018, before everything shut down, we did almost $100,000 in revenue for a year-old business. 2 months, almost $100,000 in revenue, year-old business, right? We had momentum through the roof. We were in schools, educational consulting. We were in 65 schools across the city of Houston. COVID happened. Business done. Completely done. Because we were in person at the time. The district blew all their money. They didn't have money for extra programs. So instead of getting upset, I said, what can I do? And I probably spent about 5 hours a day on LinkedIn. Just connecting, messaging, reaching out to people, seeing what people were up to, seeing things in industries I thought were interesting, reading articles that people that I had built some relationship with would post. And literally everything that has happened to me so far, most of it has come out of LinkedIn and these relationships I developed through LinkedIn. And now my businesses that I have interest in are helping other businesses that I have interest in. And that's a really cool feeling, because like I'm getting like double paid just for relationships. And that's awesome. I didn't have to do anything except send an email.
Oh, that is such a beautiful thing. I love it when it comes from like, no, I love this and I love this. And hey, do you want to do, I need to sit you guys down. Let's schedule a meeting. And everybody's like, this is the best. This is the thing I needed. Like that's solving real world problems at a real world scale.
Man, I think if more like I want to just take that clip and just share it all over LinkedIn, because there's so many people who come from a place of taking and not from if people use LinkedIn the way it's supposed to be used. Like, for instance, we met on LinkedIn, man, and who knows, you my guy, man. If I can do anything to support, I'm going to connect you, right? Like if people use LinkedIn properly, you could literally exponentially grow what your possibilities, things you can't even comprehend when you first start, because you're just being introduced and put in rooms that you didn't even know existed. Right.
Yep.
That's huge, man. I think that was huge.
It's the most powerful social business tool out there. I don't care about Clubhouse. I don't care about all this other stuff. LinkedIn is still the most powerful social business tool. I'm on the board of a university because of LinkedIn. I'm 38 years old. I have no purpose being on the board of a university, right? But I am because of relationships that I developed on LinkedIn, because of the skill set that I worked hard to cultivate. Now remember that 30,000 foot view? I'm helping educate generations of chiropractors who are going to go out there and help millions of people. That's something, again, when I'm in the grave, that's legacy, that's impact. That's something that is beyond the money. And, people, let's go back again to that. You're crazy. People were just looking at the money. They weren't looking at impact. I look at impact. I'd say, if you make an 8-figure impact, you're going to have an 8-figure income. It's not rocket science.
The money always comes.
Boom.
People are so obsessed with, well, I need to get the money. It's got to be about the money. I'm like, does it really though? I'm like, because if you don't provide the value, if you just show up, provide value and be awesome, you will get paid.
Yep. It's not hard. Does it take time? Yes. Is it always going to be easy? Absolutely not. Are you going to fall flat on your face a lot? Absolutely. Freaking absolutely. You're going to get kicked in the teeth all the time. You're like, whoop, oh, that didn't work.
That happened. Well, looks like that didn't work out all that well. Oh yeah, no. We were talking about on the last podcast that we recorded. I made a statement that you weren't truly an entrepreneur until you'd really failed. And if I look back over the last 22 years, 22 years, 16 companies in total now. And a lot of memories, like the ones that are most near and dear to me, are the biggest fuck ups in my life. They are the failed businesses and the broken partnerships and the face planted ideas that I was so committed to. It's like, oh yeah. I mean, it gave me a perspective where I could stop and look at something and be like, okay, so who does this really serve? Is this serving me or is this serving them? Yep.
That's deep. That's deep, man. This was so sick. So I guess we gotta end with some game, man. So what's something real quick? What's something that you want to leave behind for the audience? That's something actionable that they can, get their arms wrapped around.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story that involved 2 individuals. One thing I hear all the time is that I'm too old. I'm like, no, you're not. You're never too freaking old. You dead? No, you're not too old. So in my pharmacy school class, there was a woman who started at 50 years old. Pharmacy school is 4 years. She was 54 when she graduated. She was in the military. She said her lifelong dream was to become a pharmacist. She got out of the military. She started pharmacy school. I still talk to her to this day. She was a massive inspiration for me. Second, another guy, medical school class, successful entrepreneur, multiple businesses, sold them. said, I always wanted to be a doctor. Started medical school at 45 years old. Right? He's not going to be done with medical school and residency till he's in his mid 50s. Still did it. That guy right now, he's practicing medicine. So you are never too old. You're never too this. You're never too that. Don't let that language inside your head. I never say can't. The moment I say can't, you've already lost. You've already failed. You will make it so that your thoughts reinforce why you can't. Instead, do what I did during the pandemic when my business went belly up. Say, what can I do? How can I make this work? If you ask yourself empowering questions, you will get empowering answers, and you will figure out a way to make it work.
That is a mind wallet connection. You want a fat wallet? Start. Your mind needs to be that kind of right. That's all I got to say.
Boom, man. What an episode, man. I appreciate you for coming on. This was so fire. So before we wrap up, like, how can people find you, man? Like, leave us some links, give us some, how can we get more Richard Harris?
Yeah, the best thing is to check out my podcast, Strive for Great Health podcast. It's health, wellness, and mindset, but it's all over the place, like me. So you'll hear a little bit about everything. You'll hear business, you'll hear lifestyle, you'll hear medicine. Most active I am on LinkedIn, and that's Richard Harris. And then my Instagram, that's Dr. Harris MD. My Instagram mostly focuses on like 1-minute reels of recent studies that I've read, just to give you people some information about what the newest research is showing and how they can incorporate it into their lives.
Oh, I love it. You guys don't ever say that the knowledge or the information isn't out there for you to find, because Richard just proved you wrong.
Boom. Love it. So guess what, guys? You made it to the end of the episode. We appreciate you. Without you, there is no Campfire Capitalism podcast. So I want to thank you for giving us the most precious resource on the planet, your time. And Dr. Richard, thank you for joining us, man. This was great. Heather, the queen herself, appreciate you for as well being on the pod. So don't forget, guys, leave that rating, review, send us a comments. Go check out Dr. Harris's podcast. The guy is a special man. And hopefully you got a lot of value from this pod today. Hope all is well, and see you on the next episode. Cheers. If you call